Hi everyone, most of us know that whiskey is made from barley malt, and some of us have heard about malting, but what is floor malting specifically? Let's have a look. So in the mashing episode, I touched briefly on malting, but let's visit it again. Malting is a crucial step between the harvesting of barley grain from a field and the preparation of a fermentable liquid. So the malting process germinates, essentially wets the seed, germinates it for a period of 2 to 3 days, and then kilns it, so heats it up to essentially kill the seed. Now, why is this done? It is to that seed in its preparation for growth is releasing enzymes and preparing the seed for the breakdown of starches to sugar. Now, distilleries need to be able to break down those starches into sugars, utilize the grain's natural enzymes to produce something fermentable to make alcohol that can then be distilled. Right, that's the reason we malt. That's a very brief synopsis of the process. Now, these days, most malting, by far the largest proportion of malting is conducted in a quite an automated industrial process. The grain is brought in as per the traditional way of doing it. It's wet, it is germinated, and it is carefully controlled in terms of its temperature, the amount of aeration and ratios of CO2 to air, and constantly stirred. The process of floor malting is the way it would have been done prior to the Industrial Revolution. So a much more hands-on, labor-intensive way of getting the same thing done. So similarly, grain would have been brought in, steeped in water, laid onto a floor maybe 6 inches deep, as big an area as possible, and to try and keep temperature consistency and aeration through that bed of grain. That would have been constantly, or not constantly, but regularly raked by a maltster. So that would be floor malting, someone walking over the grain, raking that grain and dispersing it and getting air through it. Now that whole process, the floor malting process by hand, is much less efficient than the industrial process. Those grains are exposed to more CO2, there's less airflow, there's less constant stirring because of how labor intensive it is. And the result is that the floor malted barley grain is considered under-modified relative to an industrial process. Now, many consider this important because you get less efficiency, it's more labor intensive and less efficient, less yield, less sugars means less alcohol, which is why floor malting has dwindled. But importantly, that can preserve more of the grain's flavor, provide a little bit more grain flavor intensity, because less of that grain is essentially getting fermented, more of that flavor is getting imparted into a liquid. So many distilleries that still practice the art of floor malting, and I'm holding up a fantastic bottling of one of those distilleries, Bowmore, swear by the benefit of that traditional, less efficient way of malting barley, that it preserves and imparts a little bit more flavor onto your beer and then through your distillate into your whiskey. So I hope that sheds a little light on floor malting and what is meant by floor malting, and why some brands will be quite explicit about the fact that they do their own floor malting.